Apple claim that their latest iPhone 16 Pro films at cinema grade level, and I'm going to weigh this up against a Netflix approved cinema camera. Let's get into this. So you can get the iPhone 16 Pro, not the Max, for £1,000, and that is the entry level 128GB. First, this camera here, which is a Sony FX3, worth £4,000, plus all the lenses I need with it in order to match the focal length of what this is capable of. So this entire setup is worth over £12,000. So that's £11,000 more than the camera in your pocket. But can you tell the difference between both of these? Let's get into the specs of the camera on the iPhone 16. So this is a 48 megapixel fusion camera. What that means, it uses all the cameras to build the photo or the video. The focal ranges from 13mm all the way up to 120mm telephoto. It's got 5 times optical zoom on it. It films in 4K Dolby Vision video at 120 frames a second. It has a cinema action mode. Now this is important to keep in mind. We are comparing the cinema mode on this camera. It has an f-stop of 1.7 and beyond. And finally, if you want to do ProRes recording, like we can do with these cameras, you will need an external drive. But we're not going to do that today, but you can literally compare the quality between each one. This camera here is the Sony FX3. It's our workhorse. It was used on the film The Creator on Netflix. As I said, it's £4,000. It has a many capability. It is 4K, slow motion, 120 frames per second. It has a screen on the back, just like the screen on your phone. And you can swap out the lenses. And this is heavy. We have a tilter cage on it just to protect it as well, if you're wondering what that is. And this camera, compared to an iPhone, is way more modular. So before we begin, to make this fair, we're going to do a studio setup of the filming, and we're going to use a prop. This is a very, very special prop. This is, let's bring this closer, you can see it. This is the Guyver. We're going to use this as our model to compare the focal ranges. So let's start off with 13mm focal range. So on screen now, we have both the videos. We have the iPhone 16 and we have the FX3. I'm not going to tell you which one is which. And what I've specifically done to make this a fair test, I've matched the movement as best I can and the distance. So what you're watching right now is the 13mm focal range on the iPhone and the 14mm focal range on the FX3. These are both set at 1.8 to give it a fair test, because that's as low as the FX3 can go on the f-stop. Now let's just zoom in to 200%. Does that make a difference? Here's some close-ups of each one. Did you guess which one's the FX3 and the iPhone? So I can reveal that A is the iPhone. It looks pretty close, especially if you're watching this on your phone. You won't be able to tell the difference much at all. But if you've got a keen eye like I do on this sort of thing, it's pretty clear that B is FX3. So let's go to focal length 2, and we're going to use a Sigma 24 to 70mm lens. This is at 2.8, so we will match the iPhone to this 24 2.8. For this test, we have to move a bit further away because we've got more distance on the focal length. Again, have matched it. Let's zoom in 200%. Can you tell the difference? Again, to me, I can see the difference. Did you spot the difference? On this occasion, A is the FX3 and B is the iPhone. Right, straight on to the next focal length, and that is 48mm. We're sticking with the Sigma. We're winding this up to 48mm. Let's take a look. Once again, I've had to move a bit further away from the subject so that we can match it and so that we can see clear what we're filming. Is the bokeh or the blurriness in the background giving it away? I think it's pretty clear on this one, and I'll tell you why. And that's because on the Guyver you've got some sharp edges. The iPhone can't isolate it so well. It is guessing where the blur is. So if you spotted it, that means A is the iPhone and B is the FX3. I think it's a bit clear which one's which on this occasion. Right, our final test is 120mm. So here we have a G Master. This is high end as we possibly can go on this type of camera. This lens is over £2,000. We're going to zoom in to 120mm, again an f-stop 2.8. Let's take a look. Wow, I've more or less had to step out the room for this one because that is hell of a distance. Now, based on the last focal length, can you guess which is which? Now, let's just zoom in 200% on this. Well, the phone does do an amazing job, but there's definitely a clear winner here. And if you've guessed it, A was the FX3 and B was the iPhone. So that's the tests. The one thing that's occurred to me while doing this filming is the handling. It's one thing saying that your phone can film, that's great, but handling it means everything. Obviously you have this new button on the top for the camera which instantly opens. It's a great little thing. It's a great gimmick, I would say, because you can do it all via the screen anyway. But I don't feel like I'm filming when I'm holding this. There's not the weight there you need. Unlike when you're holding a camera, you've got the grip, you've got the weight, you can brace yourself on it. Obviously, I'm going to be slightly biased, let's be honest here. This is what I do as a living. I'm not keen on using the phone for video or photos, but let's focus on that. You could rig this thing out, just like we got on the camera here. We got a tilter cage. You can get a tilter cage on your phone. You can get some handles, you can mic it up, you can put light on it. And this is what they generally do on adverts anyway. If they're showing the iPhone, what they used to, and they got in trouble for it because they rigged it out to say shot on iPhone, but with about £20,000 worth of gear. I suggest rigging it out, give it a bit of weight, but then that becomes a bit pointless because this is something you just want to whip out your pocket and quickly film some cinema grade stuff. I don't believe we're there yet, and that is mainly because, look, I can't exactly show you here how thin that is. What can you actually achieve on that focal length apart from digitalizing it and AI doing all the work compared to the width of that? You're going to get more out of that. You're going to get that lovely bokeh creaminess in the background compared to the artificialness of the iPhone. Now, I do love a new feature on here, and that is the button on the iPhone. And when you press the button, it opens the camera mode. Let me just put this camera in shot. Oh, this is tricky to shoot. Put it on top. And if you press down on that button, let me just find that button. There we go, there it is. You can then select through your different modes. If you double tap it, oh no, I took a photo. This is proving my point. It's not easy to handle. It's touch sensitive, so you've got to just literally tap it. Oh, I can go into my styles. Let's scroll across to camera, zoom. Let's go zoom, you have to double tap it, and then you can zoom in and out. That is super handy, but very, very tricky to use. And if you're taking photos with this, as nice as it is to feel the click of the button taking photos, your phone moves. Okay, the stabilization helps, but that's because it's light. It needs to be heavy. Unlike this, if this was a photography camera, you press the button, it's not moving because it's heavy. So my conclusion is, has the iPhone beaten a £12,000 camera with all the accessories? No. Could you get away with it in a pinch? Yes. Would I use it in a pinch? Yes, and I previously have used the phone as a secondary camera in the early days. So if you've got one and you want to get into filming, I would highly recommend going for the Pro or the Max, rig it out, and you got yourself almost a cinema grade camera, but it's not quite there yet. I think we're a few years off, but good try, Apple. I love your products, and I think as a way of quickly getting a shot in a pinch, job well done. But what do you think? Could you get away with filming your next pro level production on an iPhone 16 Pro or Max? Love to know. comment below. I really enjoyed creating this video, and if you've enjoyed watching it, I'd love to subscribe. It really encouraged me to create more videos for you guys. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you just might like the review I've done on the FX3 coming up next.